Mean to the team, not just in the context of the season, but what doing something like that does perhaps for players' self-belief?
Yeah, well, I think as we acknowledged in the lead-in, it was a big game for both clubs. You know, in terms of the context of the year, and difference between 7 and 5 and 8 and 4 is not to be sort of overlooked. But from a belief viewpoint, I think it just helps in terms of the journey we're on. The guys now get a real feeling of what they're able to create as a group in any circumstances. And you know, it's fair to say at quarter time we had some challenges and they really responded, which was fantastic.
Did you do anything structurally to the team, or was it more just reinforcing your message of what you wanted them to do? Because you contested ball clearances well down, and then to do what you did in the second half. John, what does a win like that mean to the team, not just in the context of the season, but what doing something like that does perhaps for players' self-belief?
Yeah, well, I think as we acknowledged in the lead-in, it was a big game for both clubs. You know, in terms of the context of the year, and difference between 7 and 5 and 8 and 4 is not to be sort of overlooked. But from a belief viewpoint, I think it just helps in terms of the journey we're on. The guys now get a real feeling of what they're able to create as a group in any circumstances. And you know, it's fair to say at quarter time we had some challenges and they really responded, which was fantastic.
Did you do anything structurally to the team, or was it more just reinforcing your message of what you wanted them to do? Because you contested ball clearances well down, and then to do what you did in the second half.
Yeah, we probably made a couple of minor changes, but nothing significant. It was more about just our ability at the contest. In the first quarter, I felt like we were, West Coast were on top in that area, and they were getting strong field position and scoring. I think they had 11 scoring shots from 15 inside 50, so we were under a bit of siege down back. And I thought that was just effort, really. The players returned with some really strong effort in the second quarter, and we worked our way back into the game.
Given that, Don, how big was the effort of Rory Sloan in particular after half-time?
Yeah, look, he's a leader of our footy club, and he sets a strong example. You know, him, I could name a number of our midfielders. I thought again our strength's been our even contribution, and it was evident again tonight. You know, we've got a lot of guys who contribute, some with pressure, some with tackling, some with ball winning, some with just finishing execution. So that's what we've been built on, and that's how guys are playing.
Do you think that the way the boys looked or appeared to be a bit rushed when they had the footy in the first half? Do you think they were perhaps a bit too amped up for the occasion, the big test, or was it took a while?
Oh, no, I think you've got to pay real credit to West Coast and the pressure they were putting on. I thought, early they came out, as they tend to do in first quarters, and really, put us under a fair amount of pressure. I thought the pleasing part was our guys didn't back away. They kept taking the game on. They kept going for some of the kicks and stuff, and all of a sudden they started to open up, and we got some connection, which was allowed us to basically keep ourselves in the game and obviously get back in it.
How crucial was Eddie Betts and just keeping the scoreboard ticking along that way?
Yeah, well, look, Eddie's as we identified, he's a unique player, and tonight he played his role. He obviously finished with 5, but he plays his role each week, and that's what we're after.
You're getting a lot of forward 50 entries, but probably weren't getting the reward. So how crucial was it to have a player like that who actually did make the most of his chance?
Yeah, there was a couple of plays probably in that third quarter. I sort of felt in the third quarter the game was being played sort of on our terms. We had the ball in our forward half, but we just couldn't quite hit the scoreboard. There's probably a couple of plays, one with Eddie and one with Charlie Cameron, where they did a couple of special things and took some marks that just kept the scoreboard ticking over for us. The good part was the players, certainly at three-quarter time, they were aware of how the game was being played, and they felt like there was a capacity for them to keep going in the last quarter, which they did.
It's a big turnaround, 55 points from midway through the third.
Yeah.
Can you explain from your point of view why that happened?
Well, I think as I said, the game sort of drifted and started to get played in our half, and for a while there we weren't scoring. But history tells me if you can keep the ball going inside your forward 50, and I think end up with 65 inside 50s, your opportunities will come. It was just a matter of being patient, maybe tidying up a couple of our connections. We missed a few options in there, but then we've got that in the last quarter, and all of a sudden we started hitting the scoreboard, and that puts pressure on opposition.
Do you think field position is even more important here because the ground's a bit narrow and ball movement can get a bit squeezed up when they're trying to get out.
Yeah, and it's a longer ground, so it's a longer transition if you're trying to do it from deep in your half. So, and certainly that's what we were feeling coming into three-quarter time. If we could continue to, and it starts with your effort around the contest, and our guys were really elite in that in the last quarter. I thought some of our tackling, some of our pressure acts across. I'm not going to name individuals, but across the group were really strong, and that just allows you to win that ball and then get it in your forward half.
Nat knew he spent a fair bit of time off the ground in the second half. You know pretty well, did it look like he wasn't right, and was there a significant factor, you think?
Oh, I didn't really notice, to be honest, Nick. I was sort of more focused on what we were doing, so it'd be hard for me to comment on that.
Beating the Eagles in Perth is a pretty special thing, just in the context of the season. What do you think a result like this can do for you?
Oh, as I said before, I think it adds to our belief, and as I said, on the journey we're on. The guys came across after the last 3 games really looking forward to that challenge. They're confident from how they were playing. And the really pleasing part tonight is that even after a slow start, we played the way we want to play, and they'll take some belief from that and some real confidence.
Do you feel like you can beat anyone anywhere now? The group's matured to that stage.
Oh, I wouldn't necessarily go down that path. I think it was a really good win. Let's keep it in context. It gets us 4 points. We're really happy to get the 4 points. But I know we've got a bye, and then we come back and we've got North Melbourne, Adelaide Oval, which it's another great test. And this competition doesn't allow you to reflect for too long. You've got to actually go, okay, take the good, understand what you keep working on, and butter up week in, week out.
Don, 12 months ago, the same team, all very similar players, walked off the ground, obviously heartbroken after probably the most emotional game the club's ever had. For the group to stay united and return 12 months on, and given that you've been there for half of the year now, to win like that says a lot about their character, do you think?
Yeah, look, I think the events of last year have really galvanised the group, and certainly when I came on board, it was obvious that those events in a unique and tragic circumstances really drew the group together, and I think that's something they can call upon because they've got a different relationship than other playing groups. And it's pleasing for them tonight. They can get a result and enjoy that as we head into the bye.
What do you have planned for them for the week off?
Oh, look, the guys will return. Some of the guys are returning home. We've got 4-day break now, so we return to training on Friday. It's a good opportunity for them to get away, both mentally and physically. This is a long year, and we're 12 games in, and we've got obviously some big games to come. So, good chance for them to spend some time with their families and wives, and I certainly know I will be, and getting a couple of days break.
How did you rate the effort of your defence, given they often score heavily here?
Yeah, I was really happy with the defenders. I thought early we were probably under siege, as I said. I thought they held up really well, and as I said, kept being really proactive in taking the game on. At times when it would be easy to go back into your shell, I thought they were good tonight as a group. I wouldn't individualise. I thought just as a group they were really solid.
Sam Jacobs was holding in that second half. He came on.
I just got a kick in the shin, so I don't think we had any injuries to report, which is another good outcome for us.
On halfway point of the season, are you pretty satisfied with what the club's done to this point?
I think what we've done in the first half of the year is give ourselves the best opportunity for the next 10 weeks. I mean, history says you get what you deserve, and our guys have put a lot of effort in, and they've been rewarded with some good wins and some confidence from that. But it's a start.
It looked from the outside like that would be the highlight of your season so far, especially that second half. Is that because you played, or is that?
Yeah, I think we've had some really solid games and wins. Again, not going through them individually, but certainly the last, probably when we're 26 points down halfway through that third quarter, they just kept going. Our effort was really strong, and the last quarter to finish off the way we did, I think is testament to the group and the work they've done and their effort. I mean, they just kept coming.
Is it as good as you've seen all season?
Oh, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's pretty hard to be too critical when you keep West Coast scoreless in the last quarter and come home like we did. Certainly going to make heading to the break a bit more enjoyable.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mike.